everyone, it's Michelle here today and I'm going to show you how I made this shaker card. I'm trying to practice making shaker cards because honestly I'm not that good at it, but I'm practicing to try and make myself better. And I had a perfect opportunity to make one this week because there is a special sale happening at Picket Fence Studios. So the shaker mixers that I'm going to be using today are going to be on flash sale. So if you're interested in them, get onto them really quick because they're not going to last long at all. So I'm starting with the scallop framed dies. So I cut myself a slimline card, so that is 8.5 by 3.5 inches, and I've used this small heart frame die from the set to cut out 4 hearts. And I'm going to make each of those hearts into a shaker window, and each one is going to have a different shaker mix in it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just placing those die cut hearts and their frames back in place onto the card base, and I'm going to just trace around with my pencil with a bit of a border. That's just going to give me a guide as to where to do some ink blending onto my card base. And I'm going to use this stencil. This is called the Slimline Basket Petals stencil, and it's already got a little bit of pixie spray on the back of it. And so it's not very well stuck because there's not much pixie spray, so I thought I'll just put some masking tape on the back just to hold it in place a little bit better. And I'm going to use my life-changing blender brushes to ink blend over the top of this stencil. So I've got Abandoned Coral Distress Oxide ink, then I've got Spice Marmalade, I have Twisted Citron, and I have Salty Ocean. So going for kind of a partial rainbow. I couldn't really fit 6 hearts onto this card front to make a full rainbow, so I just went with these 4 colours. All right, and the shaker mixes that I'm going to use are going to match each of those backgrounds. All right, so I've finished with my ink blending now, and I decided to take the frames that is cut. Each of these frames comes from the die. It actually cuts the heart shape and it cuts the frame surrounding it, and I decided to do some ink blending on each of those frames, and I'm going to be adding them a little bit later on. Now onto this background, I wanted to add a little bit more detail, so I have this little spray bottle which I have some paper glitz sparkle mixed with water, and so I'm just sort of splattering that over my background. You'll be able to see this through the shaker windows and behind the shaker mixers when I'm finished, but it's just a little extra detail to add there. All right, so you might have noticed when I showed you the slimline die cutting system that I was using before, I've actually put it into a plastic pocket because I found that sometimes the cellophane bags that stamps come in, sometimes if I'm using them so much they might get a bit torn or might get a bit sort of mucked up. So I decided to actually use the plastic bag as my shaker window. So I just cut a little panel from that cellophane, and I'm just going to glue that down. I'm just adding some tape runner adhesive all around these heart shapes, and I cut the piece of cellophane, piece of plastic packaging to fit behind that, and I'm popping that on. All right, so that's all ready to go. Now comes the bit that I'm really not good at when it comes to shaker cards. And it's the bit that always takes the most amount of time, and that is fitting the foam adhesive. So I've cut most of this out so because you don't want to be bored by watching me do that. It was painful. One thing to keep in mind is that some thinner narrower pieces of foam adhesive, if you take the paper backing sheet off, you can actually make it conform to a curve. So some of the pieces there are sort of wrapped around the shape of the heart, so you can do that and it makes your life a whole lot easier. All right, so now I've got that. I've tried to make sure that each of the hearts was surrounded by some foam tape, and I'm adding my shaker mixers there. Now, I made sure that this front panel of the card, that we're looking at the back of the front panel right now, was the same size as my card base, because then I've got my card base here and I'm just going to line it up perfectly, just making sure all the corners are lining up, put it down, and now my shaker is complete, basically. So I didn't have to worry about the front panel being smaller than the card base and not being able to line it up as easily. Okay, so now I'm putting on those heart frames that I did some ink blending on before, and they're all popped in place. And all I need now to finish off is a sentiment. Okay, so I found this sentiment in the set Fancy Daily Sentiments, and it's perfect for a shaker card. It says Sprinkle Kindness Daily. And what I've done is I've used the matching die to cut a piece of cardstock first, and then I'm going to stamp over the top of it. Sometimes when you stamp first and then die cut, your stamp might not have been perfectly straight, and so it means it's really hard to line up the die. But if you do it the other way around, you can line it up absolutely perfectly. So there's a little tip for you. All right, so there is my sentiment. I'm just about to stamp it now. There we go. All good. So all that is left to do is to attach this sentiment to the front of the card. I'm just going to be using some small little pieces of foam adhesive behind this sentiment and attach it to the front, and then I am done. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process of this shaker card. I hope you like those shaker elements. Make sure you get in quick if you want to buy some. The links are in the description below. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.